Towards the end of Season 3 of Miraculous Ladybug, we saw the first proper akumatization of one of the big two. In an alternate timeline, Hawkmoth, Ladybug and Cat Noir all figured out each other's identities, and the end result saw Paris left in ruins by the newly akumatized Cat Blanc. To say this episode was well received by the fandom would be an understatement. It introduces to an awesome new character in Cat Blanc, it gave Marinette some much needed depth fighting against a villain who could actually stand a chance against her in an extended fight, and it ultimately shattered Adrianette shippers' hearts when the timelines were restored. For Seasons 4 and beyond, Asterix promised that many episodes are going to have the same sort of stakes and progression that was delivered by Cat Blanc. And in my opinion, what better way to up the stakes once more than by bringing back the white-suited villain to battle against Ladybug again, but maybe this time with a different result. So first up, we have to ask, why should Cat Blanc come back? And I think the answer's pretty simple. The heroes are too overpowered. It's as simple as that. When they're together, they can't be beaten. They've taken on Hawkmoth, Mayura, akumatized Miraculous heroes, and countless akumatized citizens, and yet they always seem to come out on top. In order to create a storyline where the two could possibly lose their Miraculouses to Hawkmoth, one of them needs to change sides. And who better than Cat Noir? Now, we all know that at some point, Hawkmoth is going to defy all the odds and actually make a plan that works and finally get his hands on the Miraculouses. Otherwise, the plot's leading nowhere. So, obviously, he needs a henchman with enough firepower that they'd actually be able to defeat Marinette and take her earrings off her. I realise that some people are going to say, well, why not Marinette? Why can't she get akumatized instead? And to that I'd say, it's much more simple for Hawkmoth to akumatize Adrian. It would be way more of a stretch for Ladybug to be the victim, and it wouldn't really make as much sense for the overall narrative. But back to it, how would all this go down? I think the story should play out quite similarly to the Cat Blanc episode, but with a few key differences that make the plot diverge significantly. I think at some point towards the end of the Hawkmoth arc, he needs to discover that Adrian's Cat Noir, just like in Cat Blanc. Now, it's not really all that important as to how that part of the story unfolds, but if I had to guess, it would be from Lila or Felix revealing it to him. It makes sense for one of those two characters to rat Adrian out and reveal him as Cat Noir, considering they're likely going to get increased villain roles in the next 2 seasons, and one of them might even be the next wielder of the Butterfly Miraculous, as I speculated in a previous video. And this is where the plot lines up more closely with the Cat Blanc episode. Hawkmoth lures the heroes to his lair, before unveiling Emily's corpse, and then hitting Adrian for a home run. All of that lines up with the episode. But then the Akuma comes out to play, and I think that's where the story is going to start to diverge. So as we know, in the original Cat Blanc, he's torn between his dad and Marinette, and he ends up blowing up Paris. But in this context, I think it's far more likely that he loses his struggle against the Akuma and works with Hawkmoth against Marinette. Remember, in this timeline, Adrian doesn't know who Marinette is, and let's face it, that development's not happening until the last minute. So whilst he's still infatuated with Ladybug at this point, his feelings for her would not be as strong as they would be as if she was in a relationship with him. And since in Cat Blanc he still couldn't choose between them, it makes sense that his love for his parents is going to trump Ladybug in this case. And this in turn would create a villain that Marinette can't overcome. In the Season 2 finale, Hawkmoth held his own against Ladybug and Cat Noir, so we know that he's fairly competent in fighting. And we know that Cat Blanc is a way stronger version of Cat Noir, so she can lose without seeming out of character for someone on her power level. This would allow Gabriel to finally get his hands on the Miraculouses and get his wish, and then this could lead into the endgame where the heroes have to clean up everything that's happened. In my mind, Cat Blanc needs to come back to actually let the show push towards the endgame. The way Hawkmoth has been written makes me feel that it'd be really unrealistic if he managed to beat both Ladybug and Cat Noir without some cheap tactics of some kind. It would be so strange to me if after 5 whole seasons of Hawkmoth fails, he manages to get it done on his own or with his equally incompetent allies. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Cat Blanc's going to make a reappearance, or do you think that Adrian's finished being mind-controlled? How do you think that Hawkmoth is going to get his hands on the Miraculouses if he doesn't use Adrian? I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Let me know.